This is Kal Kat, the Kal Katster, and this is a review of the binge watch of Transformers War for Cybertron Kingdom, the Beast Wars crossover. Early review of the He-Man Master of the Universe. I was giving away stuff from the MUSH for some reason and cut it all out because it did not make sense there. It would make sense here, but yeah, so yeah, as you probably guessed, the whole War for Cybertron Kingdom, the War for Cybertron series is not based on anything we did. It's just that we're on the same wavelength. So we make that clear that Netflix, so we're not involved in Netflix series and all that stuff at all. That would be for profit. All of our fan films are not profit. It's just that we knew certain things that they knew, and we're going to reveal it. Of course, there were certain things that we knew that they didn't do as well. So yeah, spoiler review, I guess. Well, so the story has brings the Transformers of a it's definitely a multiverse type of Marvelverse timeline. So it's not connected to the G1 timeline or Beast Wars timeline. It's really kind of its own thing, sort of floating in space, kind of its own thing. Don't know if it's a recursive loop or time loop or something, but it's its own thing. So yeah, they crash land on Earth in the prehistoric past, and the Autobots, Decepticons, and they encounter the Predacons and Maximals, and fighting with each other's factions until they realize we should ally together with each faction and go find the Allspark, basically. The Predacons have the Golden Disc, which is literally the Voyager disc, the Sounds of the Earth, but it's also the other disc on the back. It's the later Pioneer disc on the back. I wonder if they know that the Golden Disc is both. It was distracting that Tigatron didn't sound at all like Tigatron. It sounded more like Cheetor. They should have swapped him for Cheetor, because he really did not, at all. Rat Trap kind of sounded like Rat Trap. Kind of. Rhinox and Primal were kind of too close. Yeah, but they've had that problem before, because Megatron and Prime are too close. Because, as I explained in the last two reviews, the guy playing Prime and the guy playing Megatron in this, their voices are too similar. So they have the same problem here. Because he was trying very hard to be Optimus Prime, but he just didn't quite have the thing. And Peter Cullen had explained how he did the voice based on his deceased brother, and who was a Marine, and on John Wayne. And you just got that sort of swarthy thing mixed in with John Wayne, just slightly tenor timbre, low tenor basso tenor voice, sort of like, I'm Optimus Prime, head of the Autobots. But you have to put in a little bit of the John Wayne in there, a little bit of the Duke in there, just a little bit of a twirm, a little bit. Then you sound like this: I'm Optimus Prime, leader of the Autobots. That would have been a fair imitation of Cullen. Maybe he wasn't trying to do that. I don't know. Megatron's voice is too low in the story, and he sounds too much like Prime. So the Megatron in this sounds like Prime. Actually, the guy playing Beast Wars Megatron sounded more like a Megatron, which was interesting. Surprised, though, that he didn't do the yes, which Beast Wars Primal Megatron is known for. Yes. We must destroy the Maximals. Yes. But apparently the new it's gonna be a new movie that's gonna do that Beast Wars. But they really should get some of the voices from the original Chalk, Gary Chalk, and the other guys. They should get them to be Megatron and Primal. Beast Wars. Yeah, so no, that's Beast Wars. Yeah. Kingdom. So they have to find the Allspark, basically. So it's kind of like the same as the, or for Cybertron, and of course, and if they had the Allspark, it would have been Corrosion wove that into. Yeah. But War for Cybertron, the game, was loosely based on Corrosion wove that in, so that makes sense. And on some of the other ones, we have. Yeah, they all read the same MUSH. They read the same multi-user shared hallucination. So yeah, same website. Sure, there were plenty of people in there, but you have sort of an Earth-like planet. It was supposed to be Earth. A golden disk that's out of time and space, even though they wouldn't have it. They'd have it in the future. That wouldn't make sense. Did it even get there? So it would be the disk off Voyager 2. Okay, did they find it? When did they find it? Megatron imparted his information onto it. And somehow Dinobot is still of the Predacons in this version. So this story would, if it was Beast Wars, would technically be in the first season, before they discover the Ark and all that from the end of the second season, and then the end of the end of the season where they discover the Ark, and then to stop that, and then they become because it's before the Fuse Wars. The Fuse Wars was season 2. Season 3 was Optimus Primal Prime and all that. Optimus Primal Prime and discovering the Ark, and then having to keep the Ark and all that stuff. So the homage to that idea and origin, as well as Beast Machines to an extent, except as if Kal Kat rewrote it, so it wasn't as dark. But he didn't. So we have, although the voice of the spaceship, it does sound a little like Kal Kat. Yeah. But spaceship. Anyway, so we have, we have Starscream and Arachnia and Dinobot wanting to roll on their own agenda, of course, and going back and forth. We have Bumblebee having his Autobot symbol now, and he's going to be the co-leader thing if he survives, and the chosen one and all that. Although it's kind of weak how they set it up, so it's like, well, is he necessarily that, or is he something else? What's going on? So yeah, I'm not entirely sure now. Was it heading to the Allspark land? And Primal Prime has this sickle scythe things, Destiny, of course. He doesn't use them as like in the story though. He uses them as just weapons. They don't have any powers or magical things. We have Galvatron who comes to Megatron in visions, sort of like Star Wars. And they eventually reveal that Galvatron is Megatron from the future, from another future where Unicron survived in the dead zone, the dead space, and they went through the dead space. That's why the ship doesn't work. They have to reset the ship to go to it, to get away from the Nemesis. Also, the primal people ran from Nemesis, but not the Nemesis. Nemesis, yeah. So they bait and switch that, but they keep foreshadowing it by showing Prime Nemesis. And this is one of the few stories that includes which was originally a BotCon exclusive, Nemesis Prime, at one point. Spoilers. But it's in the trailer. I won't give away what he does, but he shows up later. So they were the fans of Transformers Meet Robotech, and they wanted to include Masochistic Prime. So 2012, 2014, and they're all in. Okay, include him. Sure. And he sounds a lot like him. So that was Mark's Cards playing that character. Not in this story, but in that one. Yeah. So it's an interesting. Yeah. And when they're trying to get to the Allspark chamber on the Earth, it's all illusions and things are messing with their heads and making him. Starscream thinks that he won and he's got the crown and everything, and Megatron thinks he won and Prime thinks he won, and they're all like trying to find something. It's very similar to the Wrath Planet story arc in MUSH, Alt Transformers MUSH. The idea that they get their ambitions and desires happening, but they become a nightmare. It is a similar way to the classic TV show Fantasy Island, where your fantasy might be the greatest fantasy ever, but it has to end with the fantasy failing. The Transformers want to like have more of their ambition and angst and drive and stuff, while the Decepticons are fueled by their hatred and desire for power, so that would be amplified instead. Something to that effect. Yeah. Autobots want to be ambitious and free. And, Decepticons want to conquer. Basically. Yeah. So when they were thinking this Netflix series up, they asked fans, "Oh, it would be cool," you know. Some of them suggested Beast Wars would be cool in the third one. They had to jury rig that by just not saying when it took place. The story, and when the ship crashed in the story, they made it sound like the Autobot volcano and the ship and the Ark, condensing all of Beast Wars into one 6-part episode. But I think of it as a pocket alternate universe, where kind of like how Captain America and Marvel went back to a version of the 40s to live his life up to that point with his girlfriend, Agent. And then returned to the present, and then as an old man, having lived his life and gave the shield. That's kind of the same idea as that they don't quite say where they are, because if they did, they'd have to explain too much. Kind of said that kind of stuff. It's like, yeah, you can't just go around and say like, okay, well, Beast Wars technically took place in the year 2396, and it gets kind of confusing. It's like the 23rd century. So 2296, and then 99, and then a Beast Machine, and then the original series was in the 80s to 2005, 2008 roughly. So Beast Wars was millions of years earlier because they used time travel, which immediately screws it all up because they used time travel. And Megatron and Beast Machines went back and messed up time and space. They head back to the present in this one near the end, and something similar happens. They go into dead space, and there's kind of like an odd scene in there where they're in dead space going that we've lost all control of the ship for a moment, but they don't say they got out. And then they arrive on Cybertron, it's all frozen, and stuff happens there with Nemesis and Galvatron and everybody, which is kind of in the trailer. There's spoilers in the review just to summarize it. But so it's like, what we have? We've got this. I figured Galvatron was a slave of Unicron, although in the movie Transformers the movie set in 2005, they defeat Unicron in the movie. They introduce him and then defeat him. That's canon. So this version of Unicron is still floating around. He's still around, so he's more like Armada Unicron. So they're Armada Unicron. And also similar to the one in Transtech and the one in Alt Transformers MUSH. So what's he doing? Doing things. The one in MUSH, though, we made him smaller. We made him the Armada one. So he's not as tall as the planet one. He only can gobble moons, not planets. I won't give away the Galita stuff. I will give away what didn't happen. There was some Spanish speculation on the Primal Prime and the other ones about different characters that weren't in it because the animation was drawn a little weird. And one point is like, well, where's this Skyfire guy? Is the one that kisses Black Arachne? Is that Skyfire? And this is the one that flying through the trees. Is that Skyfire? The Jetfire, whatever. It should be Silverbolt. Should be his name. Silverbolt, yes. Silverbolt doing stuff instead of Black Arachne. No, instead of Air Razor. No, it's Air Razor. They just drew it wrong. They drew her as a bald eagle in a couple shots. It's like, what? They just messed up. Yeah. She's like, yes, yeah. They messed up. So it was her. And the blink and you'll miss it kiss scene is a blink and you miss it scene in there. She didn't reciprocate. She just kissed her, and then she's like, oh. And I just kept going. There was a line right out of Alt Transformers MUSH in there, though. There was... oh, no. There was a line in there. There was a line that was like referring to their like destiny and their gender and stuff like that, which is right out of that. And it was funny because I thought that was funny. They refer to them as being like destined. The destiny, the thing. Is this thing a device or? And at one point they referenced the Allspark, going, "Is it a device or a person or a thing?" They added that too. It's a device, but it's symbiotic like thing. That's right out of MUSH. But before the Allspark, the Alt Transformers MUSH stuff in terms of the timeline was, of course, 20 years ago. So it was a little over 20 years ago. So it's part of the lore of more of the UK comics and the Marvel comics than it is the cartoons. And they had something like the Allspark in the cartoons and the comics. And it was introduced into the lore later on, as of I believe, it was a little before Armada. It was during Beast Wars and Beast Wars Neo, the Japanese version of those. They reference something like an Allspark. And then it sort of was retconned into the series as this is a thing, this Allspark thing. And then it ended up in the Michael Bay movies. But originally, the Matrix was not the Allspark. The Matrix was just Prime Spark inside the Matrix. So, yeah. The Matrix didn't even exist until the movies. 2005, the first movie. Yeah, so the lore and stuff. There's a big book. Transformer book. Yeah, which is now even bigger. Yeah, now it's ridiculous. The lore is no more weirder than He-Man, though, because He-Man's even weirder. There's like time travel and black holes and aliens, and the Queen is actually an astronaut from Earth. It's like weird. It's like that lore of He-Man. It's the good thing they left that stuff out of the reboot, because it would not have made any sense. They just said, okay, no Eternias like that. You know, in this version, there's no black hole, but it's sort of wormholes. Yeah, it's like that doesn't make any sense. That didn't do that in the other one, thankfully. But yes, yeah. As for all the fans still complaining about that, well, you've only seen half of it. The second half is awesome. So, if the fans out there, haters, will be very disappointed about He-Man Chapter 2 being... They won't hate that one. So, yeah. Anyway, I liked it. But yeah. So yeah, did I like Kingdom? Sure, it was better than the other two. Because it's an homage thing, it's sort of its own. I treat it as its own pocket version of the universe. I treat it as its own, like, Dead Space, Other Space, Transformers fanfic. It's a fanfic of Transformers, basically. It's okay, this isn't the lore, this is someone's version of the lore. Then it's palatable. Then it's like, oh, okay, so it's someone's idea about the lore. And they crash the ship in another thing that ties into Transformers with Robotech. They crashed the ship in South America instead of North America. and near a volcano there. So that's funny. So they're in the jungle. So they can tie it into the movie, which takes place in South America. Which they shouldn't have done, really, because why not just have the movie be something separate? Why not have it be like, you know, they had to, yeah, been where they were, because in the lore, in the Transformers universe, Mount Saskatchewan, or Saskatchewan, is Mount St. Helens. It's literally Mount St. Helens, and when Mount St. Helens erupted, the Ark was activated, and the Autobots and Decepticons came out. That's literally in the lore. That's canon. So, it's Mount St. Helens. Oh, in the lore. That's what it is. Did you know that? Now you do. That's what it was supposed to be. And, yeah, because it's the Oregon Desert, and it really does look like it. It doesn't look like Peru at all. Looks like the Oregon Desert. The same Oregon Desert that inspired the Dune saga. This is funny because the Dune movie coming out. You know that one. A slight tangent. That Frank Herbert never went to the Arabian Desert. He was writing about like made-up fictional stuff that seemed Arabian, and jihads even, and Jesuits and stuff. But he was writing about the Oregon Desert. He'd never actually been there, which accounts for why the cultures don't really make sense, unless they were loosely based on like hippie organizations and groups that he encountered in Oregon and Washington. Then it does make sense. So it's like, oh, okay, yeah. So the invading force of the the other guys that go to Dune are basically Paul Atreides and them are basically Californicators from California that have gone up there. That's basically what they are. He becomes the God Emperor of Dune. It's all a political allegory for 60s era Oregon politics. Ooh, then it makes sense. It's like, oh, okay. Yeah. And falling out of the plane, that was that guy, the famous guy that jumped out of a plane with the money. That guy down there, which they referenced in Loki. Loki was not really that guy, but in the Loki, it's where he was. Yeah, it jumped out of a plane with a bunch of money. That was in Oregon. So yeah, there was Beast Wars Kingdom, Transformers Kingdom. It's the right. I'm not sure whether it would. It's the right notes, but I'm not sure if it would work as a. I'm not sure if it works altogether as a series necessarily, but as a fanfic. Just treat it as a miniseries fanfic. There's 3 miniseries. Each one is about 25 minutes long. There are 6 episodes each of this miniseries. So altogether, you'd have just a little over 2 hours, I guess. Altogether, a little longer than the He-Man one. The first part of the He-Man one. But not the second part. But yeah, it was fine. In terms of, I thought Earthrise was kind of all over the place a little bit. The darker middle chapter, but it had some issues. Also, Sparkless Bot and Zombie Bot are part of the hallucination part of the planet. They do have a shared hallucination on the planet. They do reference directly shared hallucination in the last script. It's directly referenced, including the final battle is directly referenced, which is very interesting because clearly theirs was finished before we even did our fan film. So they just knew that we were going to do the same kind of thing because the whole Alt Transformers, the acronym is multi-user shared hallucination. They knew at some point there was going to be dreams and visions and weird shit and vision quests went around because they went to the dead universe and back. So they clearly were going to do that. So we knew we were going in the same direction. So we didn't want to copy them. And they knew they were going in the same direction. They didn't want to copy us. So they're all like, okay, we're not going to have a guy called Destiny who shows up with a scythe because that's Adam. We don't want to do that. We're not going to do his. Yeah. And I was all, okay, I'm not going to do Nemesis Prime. I'm going to do Rodimus Unicronus instead. I'm going to do the Prime Rodimus guy. Okay, you do that. So we don't want to, and you're not going to get paid for doing your fan film. I said, no, it's going to go up for free. I'm not going to get paid for the other thing because I had nothing to do with the other thing. But the fan films were at the same time. So, were being put together at the same time. Theirs was just, we finished up our second season in May, and this came out, now it's July, late July. So we knew what we were going to do 3 months ago. I don't know if they changed the ending of this last minute to make it less like the shared hallucination story. Probably. Oh, he kind of did that with that ship thing. We kind of can't do that. What do we do? Oh, I got an idea. Let's just not mention the ship transforming after it transformed. Let's just not. Yeah, that's fine. Okay. All right. You could have left that in there. I was okay with it. So there weren't any Titans in it, just the ship, which is interesting. The Ark ship. There weren't very many Transformers in it, really. And like where they're going, it's kind of like Beast Machines, which is different, but a different version of it. I don't want to give things away. I don't want to give all of it away. I was not involved in writing it at all, so. But it is weird that it's the same wavelength as our stuff. There's a little bit of Space Bridge in there with the Dead Universe. A little bit of Space Bridge, and yeah. We built some ships for the Chimera thing, and we've built the bioship for something else. So we have a bioship model, an actual model instead of a blinky light, and we'll unveil that later. But a couple of ships and a bioship for something else. It's not a Transformers meets Robotech crossover. That's stupid. It's something else. We're not going to do that. That would be weird. That would be ponderous and strange. Pandering. I guess there was a Fanime online this month, but last month, but we didn't go. There is a Adam Savage Silicon. That's coming up in August. I don't think we're going to that because it's probably too late. But next year, we'll be able to do all that stuff. But yeah, other house tips. Yeah, working on Star Trek, Starship Chimera 2 or Starship Location Strange Worlds series. Miniseries, that's our latest miniseries. We're working on that. So that will be, it will not take 12 years or 13 years. No, not at all. We're looking at late 2021, early 2022. Somewhere around there for that. It's, as soon as the sets are finished, the ships are finished. As soon as the sets are finished, there's no reason to not shoot it. Just film the thing. Because we're not in quarantine anymore, but it's still like, well, kind of. It's like, why not? Why not just do other shows? I know there's some SAP Productions people that want to do, for some reason, family movies, and we don't want to do that. So that's not going to happen. We don't have the money to do that. But it is the 10th anniversary of the release of Brown Videos, so maybe we'll do some of them, but they will not go up online. So yeah, they will not go up online through them. Let's say if any of the bits went up online, they would be through On Location Cats, not through SAP One Productions, which doesn't exist anymore, or would they air it? They don't have a channel. I have a channel. Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, Transformers Beast, Transformers Kingdom. Yeah, Kingdom is. Yeah, fine. We have 3 stars evenly. It's not 3.5. It's not that good. It's a little better than 60%, 65 maybe. It ain't great, but as a whole fan film series, 3.5 altogether. If you put it all the whole series, hopefully they will release that on DVD. It's not as good as Transformers Prime. Transformers Prime was way better. Except for the part where they put Unicron in the Earth in Transformers Prime. That was dumb. And also in The Last Night, implying it too. That was dumb. We don't have anything to do with Transformers Rise of the Beasts. It's being filmed in Canada. We didn't have anything to do with that. But we had something to do with Dark of the Moon and Extinction. So, to the point of that end a little bit of Last Night too, because they kept throwing Jaeger in there. So every time Jaeger showed up, yeah, they were Mark's cards. They were clearly referencing Mark's cards, although he acted like Jim Buffkin. which was different. But yeah, and then he had a daughter, which would make him more like Martha, which doesn't make any sense. They got everybody wrong. But yeah, there you go. Martha. Yes, the two robots. Mother's names were Martha, Regis Queen. Yeah, that was yeah, sister. That was funny. She was there when I filmed that. That was funny. She's like, ha. Seen that awful Batman v Superman thing apparently on HBO or something. I was like, that was terrible. They did that. Why did they do that? Oh, I just said that name. No. I was like, what? Okay. So yeah, at least they didn't have anything like. At least Megatron and Prime didn't realize their mother's names were Martha, and they should go fight and then stop fighting. At least that didn't happen. Well, yes. Yes. Sure. Yeah, they never get to modern Earth in the stories. So all of the Earthrise update Transformers don't go with it. But is it a coincidence that I include Hoist and Grapple in mine, and some of the other guys in mine, and Trailbreaker, and put them in mine, and as Earthrise Kingdom character and Kingdom Prime and everything? No, it's not a coincidence. They're not in the Beastwars line, so I put them in mine. Yeah, so they weren't in it, so I was I can include them in mine, because they're not in this one. But yeah, also, yeah, the Jetfire thing. And kind of the Prime and Nemesis Prime thing is basically the Jetfire and Evil Jetfire thing going back and forth. Which is also in Alt Transformers MUSH. Yeah. Especially in the Shared Hallucination finale. They fight. And they fight for the thing. And at one point, they reference the Requiem Blaster. So clearly, they were watching our fanfic when they wrote this thing. They cranked it out really quickly, but yeah. Requiem Blaster. Actually, the Requiem Blaster is canon with the series. It was actually introduced officially in Transformers Armada in that series. They had a Requiem Blaster. One of the Minicons formed into a blaster, and some of them formed into the Star Saber Sword. So you had the Requiem Blaster and the Star Saber Sword. But in the G1 version, it was a Robotech type weapon that they had in there way back in '86. So I think at one point, Megatron built it to destroy the Autobots, and they had to stop it by blowing it up. So that cannon that they built to blow up the Autobots, that was the Requiem Blaster. So it's canon with the G1. So go back and watch that. Yeah, episode. Oh, there it is. And the Autobots sabotaged it. Like they came up behind it and like turned it off, so it exploded. Yeah, it wasn't the antimatter gun. It was the other one. So they were always making a gun to blow up the Autobots. So I'm sure there's going to be more in the future. So, yes. All I have to do is build a model of the SDF-3, or 4, or whatever the ship is now. They probably just built a new one out of the wreckage from the other 3, because at the end of the MUSH, that timeline is different, so they could totally build another ship that isn't that ship, because they kind of messed it up. Well, they crashed the SDF. They set Ciudad de Fuego on fire, because that's to be ironic. That was the SDF-2, I think. The SDF-1 was blasted and drowned and then found later, and then crashed into a guy's chest. The SDF-3 was still at Area 51, but it wasn't ready yet. It was Britai's ship, and the evil commander lady was hiding inside it. They went in there, found her. But she was actually the brain of her. She wasn't actually her. It was the brain. Yeah, they put her mind in the robot, basically, like they did for Bumblebee. Yes. And of course, Bumblebee in this story has the Bumblebee elements in there, as he goes to be he's very important to the end. I'm not going to give it away. Yes, because the mind is going in this direction. But yeah, I'm going to give it away. I'm not going to give the whole thing away. Yeah. Clearly, it's a setup for a sequel, though, and I don't know if they're going to make one. But yeah, we'll see. I'm guessing that the fans that didn't like it probably didn't see G1. I didn't know what it was. They were probably born later, kind of like with the He-Man stuff. They were probably born later, so they have no nostalgia for the actual thing. They're just like, oh, we liked our version better. But as a G1 fan from way back, it started in '84, and it was first Transformer was from my sister Martha, so it's her fault. It's a little side swipe, little Lamborghini, followed by Thundercracker, and Thundercracker and Jetfire. I didn't have Prime for a while, which is why the Autobot pact in the G1 series didn't have Prime and Megatron at first, because I didn't have them. They weren't until later. Yeah. I don't think I ever actually had the gun Megatron. Tim did. I didn't. John did. I didn't. I never had the gun Megatron. I got Prime later on, and then he was there by '87, which is, anyway. So but yeah. So that's Kingdom. 3 stars. Kingdom. The whole series 3.5. It's not great. It's got issues, especially with the voice cast. But they were trying, at least in this one. Oh yeah, and it's weird that Tigatron Cheetor should have been flipped. Silly Kelly really does sound like Cheetor. Cheetor maximize. A Rat Trap maximize. Because Rat Trap's got kind of a Chicago voice. Kind of sounds like Chuck E. Cheese. He's supposed to. And he kind of did. Yeah, so. They did throw Chappa Face in there. That was funny. That's in there. But it's a different timeline. So if you treat it as a different timeline where these events are happening in a different way because of what they did, because they couldn't literally keep throwing out years and saying, oh, it's 20 such and such, or it's 2 million years ago, or such and such and such. Throw people off. It's much easier in a story if you're show not tell, and just say, oh, the future, the past, because I think Galvatron explains it's a timeline thing anyway. But yeah, Transformers, beasties.